Please take your seats. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to all those who have joined us online. So, friends, last time when we finished, we were talking about the essence of ethics, remember? And we understood that ethics is not morality. What was the difference between ethics and morality? Morality was your personal understanding of right and wrong, whereas ethics is society's understanding of right and wrong. So, let's continue that discussion. And the next thing that we will compare ethics with is law. So I say that ethics is not law. Now, what makes me say so? Look here. A law comes into the picture only after the commission of the offense. Like, say, for example, if you are thinking about killing someone, but you have not killed the person, can you be held by the authorities and put in jail or put to trial? The law will not take its course unless the offense is committed. So, law comes into the picture only after the commission of the offense. If there is no offense, there will be no legal action. But ethics comes into picture right from the inception of the action. It means, like say for example, you thought of killing someone and you are wrong in the ethical code. Do you understand that? Or you are wrong in the code of conscience. Maybe your guilt cannot be established in a code of law, but you are already guilty in the code of ethics. So ethics comes into the picture right from the inception of the thought of the action. Do you understand that? Like say for example, you're thinking of cheating in the examination. This thought itself makes you ethically, you can say, culpable. But till the time you have not actually cheated in the examination, nobody can get hold of you. Like say for example, if the flying squad visits and makes you stand and asks you that, have you cheated? And you say that I have not cheated, you can check, I am not carrying any kind of things which could be considered as activities under malpractices, so I am not doing anything. So nobody can debar you from the examination. But in the code of ethics, your guilt has already been established. So the first difference between law and ethics is that law comes into the picture only after the act is committed. But ethics comes into the picture right from the moment of the thought of the act. Do you understand that? That's the first difference. Second difference is that law requires hard evidence to establish your guilt. What do I mean by hard evidence? Hard evidence means, say for example, documents would be required, or audio evidences, video evidences, witnesses. They all have to be called into the court. Now you tell me, when the judges, they dispense justice, do they do it on their subjective satisfaction or on the basis of evidences? Evidences. Do you understand that? So it means you require hard evidences. वरना तो कोई भी किसी पे कुछ भी charge लगा दे. You have to bring evidences with you, witnesses with you, and then and only then the guilt can be established in a court of law. That's how law functions. But in ethics, you do not require hard evidences. Only malified intention would be sufficient to establish your guilt. See, there are two kinds of intentions. One, good intentions or right intentions. We call them bona fide intentions. And one are bad intentions or wrong intentions. We call them malified intentions. Do you understand that? So, malified intention would be sufficient to prove your guilt in a code of ethics. The third difference is that law can be bypassed. Like say for example, by finding loopholes. Loopholes in language or in the procedure established by law. Law can be easily bypassed. Like say for example, so many people, they do not file their taxes by taking advantage of the loopholes of the Income Tax Act 1961. So law can be always bypassed by finding loopholes in language or in procedure. But ethics can never be bypassed. You are always guilty in ethics. Do you understand that? And look here, that the ethical guilt, it lives an impression for a lifetime. Now remember, in your life, now no need of disclosing it here, but remember in your life, so many things which you have done, which today you repent. You think that your actions were not correct. Think about the injustice you did to somebody else, or think about the wrongs that you committed on somebody else. Think about the wrongs that others have committed on you. Do you understand that? Have you forgotten anything? You will not forget anything. Do you understand that? So ethics leaves an impression on your mind for a lifetime, and you have to carry that load throughout your lifetime. It will be there in your mind. You can act as if nothing has happened, but it will be there and it will haunt you for the rest of your life, and it will spoil you from inside. Do you understand that? So that is the difference between ethics and law. Law comes into the picture only after the commission of the offense, whereas ethics comes into the action right from the inception of the thought of the action. Law requires hard evidence. Only malified intentions are sufficient to prove your guilt in a court of ethics. Law can be bypassed by finding loopholes in language or in procedure, or in both. But ethics can never be bypassed. The flaws that you have committed in your life, which are moral flaws, they leave an imprint for the rest of your life on your mind. Do you understand that? So you cannot bypass ethics. There is no way of circumventing ethics, but there is every possible way to circumvent the laws. And that's why the famous German philosopher Immanuel Kant, the father of deontological ethics, he makes a statement. He says, now listen to this statement very carefully. In law, a man is guilty when he violates the rights of others. In ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. Do you understand that? Now, if you destroy right to liberty of somebody else, then obviously you are violating Article 21, and therefore you will be held liable in a court of law. But just of thinking of destroying somebody's liberty makes you guilty in the court of ethics. Do you understand that? So that's the second ground of comparison. Ethics is not law. सबसे पहले तो हमने देख लिया ethics is not morality. So B, you write ethics is not law. Yes, go on. Mm-hmm. That's the gray area of morality I told you. Remember, in the last class, I told you that people may sacrifice or put their morality in the back burner just to fit into a society. Like say, for example, somebody believes that dowry is wrong, yet that person is taking part in a ceremony where dowry is being celebrated just to fit into the system, because the person do not wants to be an outcast. Aristotle said that man is a social animal and by nature he is political. So everybody has this inner inclination of living in a social group. If you are being put in an isolation, then you will suffocate in that isolation. We all have experienced that during the lockdown period. Remember how difficult it was to live in isolation because we are social animals. So drawing on your question there, that you said that somebody does not believe in casteism but yet lives in a society and supports casteism, something like that. This can be done to live or fit into the system, and that's the gray area of morality. Do you get that? Huh. Yes, that is a psychological evolution. So we'll encounter a scholar in our classes, Lawrence Kohlberg. He talks about this psychological evolution. He says there are different levels of morality, and this he calls as the post-conventional level of morality, where you start believing in universal ethical principles. Like say, for example, Martin Luther King Jr., he started believing in these kind of principles. Do you understand that, dear? So we have not reached that level of understanding in the classes. That's why I'm not throwing those concepts at you at this moment. I hope you got that. Okay, yes, please write down. So make two columns, law on one side and on one side ethics. Law and ethics. Now under law, you keep writing bullet wise. First bullet, law comes into action. Law comes into action after the commission of the offense. Law comes into action after the commission of the offense. After the commission of the offense. Now go to the column of ethics and write, ethics comes into play. Ethics comes into play right from the inception of thought. Right from the inception of thought of the offense. right from the inception of thought of the offense. Now, go back to the column of law and write, law requires hard evidence. Law requires hard evidence to establish the guilt of the offender. Law requires hard evidence to establish the guilt of the offender. To establish the guilt of the offender. In the ethics column, you write, in ethics, malafide intentions. In ethics, malafide intentions are enough to establish the guilt. Malafide intentions are enough to establish the guilt. Now, under the column of laws, again, you write, laws can be bypassed. Laws can be bypassed by finding loopholes. By finding loopholes in language or procedure. In language or procedure. Now go to the column of ethics and write, ethics can never be bypassed. Ethics can never be bypassed. Put a semicolon. It leaves a permanent impression. It leaves a permanent impression for a lifetime. It leaves a permanent impression for a lifetime. Now look here, drop your pen and look here for a moment. Do you remember law was one of the sources for drawing ethical principles and standards? In fact, all good system of law, they enforce ethics. The Constitution is a legal document or not? It's a legal document which enjoys special legal sanctity, right? It's a legal document. But does the Constitution also enforce some ethical principles and values? Like say, for example, human rights, liberty, justice, etc. These are all enforced by what? The Constitution. So all good system of laws, they enforce ethics. But law can deviate from ethics. That's why law is not ethics. Like say, for example, the 19th century slavery laws. The slavery laws which were prevalent in United States of America, where human beings were treated as property of other human beings. Do you understand that? What do you call such a law? Just or unjust? Unjust. Do you understand that? Is that law ethical? No, that's not ethical. That's why ethics is not law. Another point, an example would be the British Salt Act. Salt Act of 1882, which monopolized making of salt in India. And you know, that is what was broken by Gandhiji during the Dandi March. Remember? And that led to the beginning of the civil disobedience movement because you were disobeying the laws. Do you understand that? So all good system of laws, they enforce ethics, but law can deviate from ethics like the slavery laws or the British Salt Act. Got it? So make a star and write down. Ethics is often enforced by law. Ethics is often enforced by law. And a good system of law does incorporate many ethical standards. Does incorporate many ethical standards. Put a comma. But law can deviate. From what is ethical. Law can deviate from what is ethical. Put a full stop. For example, 19th century slavery laws of USA. 19th century slavery laws of USA. Or Britain's Salt Act. Britain's Salt Act of 1882. of 1882 in India. In India. Now keep this in mind that the British Parliament, the benevolent Parliament, which did all the good things for Britain, did all the bad things for the colonies. The Parliament is the savior in England, right? The Parliament saved the people in England from the atrocities of the king. But the same Parliament was the source of all evils for the colonies. Think of all the Government of India acts that were imposed over India. What do you call such legislations? Ethical or unethical? Unethical, because they did not give us real powers. They did not transfer to us the real democracy that we were looking for, or Swaraj. They never gave us Swaraj. Do you understand that? The federalism that was promised under 1935 Government of India Act was also sham federalism. Sham का मतलब समझते हो? मतलब धोखा. एक ऐसे ही समझ लो. It's not right form of federalism, but a sham kind of federalism. So all such laws which were passed by this institution called Parliament, which is considered as holier than thou in Britain, acted as like the Saturn's office for us. Do you understand that? So an institution can also be not compared to ethics, though all good institutions hold high ethical principles. Do you get it? Now let's come down to that statement which was made by Immanuel Kant. So write in quotation form, change the ink and write this. Yes. We'll talk about that, but let's complete this. So write down, in law, a man is guilty. In law, a man is guilty when he violates. In law, a man is guilty when he violates the rights of others. When he violates the rights of others. Put a semicolon. In ethics, he is guilty. In ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. In ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. If he only thinks of doing so. Unquote, put a hyphen and write Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant is a German philosopher. Now look here. Kant's philosophy or Kant's morality is a separate line of thought in ethics, which is known as Kantian ethics, right? It is as important for the examination as Gandhian ethics. Do you understand that? So keep a close watch on this man, Immanuel Kant, as we proceed in the course. Coming to your question, UAPA, what is that act? What is that act? What is the motive of that act? UAPA. Okay, what's the full form of that act? Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Now, when you look at the first two words, what are they? Unlawful activities. Now, the question is whether the law itself was just or not. Do you get it? We are assuming that the law is just. Do you get it? And if such laws are violated, then the society is at risk. Like say, for example, have you heard about preventive detention laws? UAPA is also a preventive detention law, right? So the authorities do not have enough evidence to establish your guilt in a court of law, but enough evidence to ascertain that if you are not stopped immediately, you will do something which will be disastrous for the society. So under that apprehension, you can be held in house arrest, say, for example. Suppose you are going to deliver a hate speech. Because of that speech, there would be communal violence in the city. And the authorities know that because they have got hold of the script of your speech, or you have given indications in your interviews what you are about to talk about in that speech. So in that way, for larger general interest, your liberty can be curbed. But here also, a window of justice should be kept open that over whom UAPA has been imposed, that person must be given the right to defend himself or herself. Do you get that? And if you look at the UAPA Act, it follows all those principles. Otherwise, the Supreme Court will declare it null and void. As simple as that. समझ में आया? अब ये statement देखो जो हमने अभी लिखा है कांट के बारे में. एक बार पढ़ो उसको. And you tell me, what is the problem with this statement? Do you find any problem with this statement? Is the thing clear to everyone? Bolo, what problem? Okay, okay, that's one problem. Any other problem? Any other problem that you see with this statement? See, the statement says what? It says that in law you are guilty if you violate the rights of others, but in ethics you are guilty if you only think of doing so. Okay, that's one point. I got it. Yes, go on. Okay. Okay, I got it. That's one problem. Establishment of proof is one problem. Finding out what's going on in somebody's mind is another problem. Any other problem? Any other problem? Now, look here. Can you think of an action which is legal but unethical? And can you think of such actions which are ethical but illegal? सोच सकते हो ऐसा कुछ? यूपीएससी ने एक बार पूछा भी है ये, आपको पता है? In one of the previous year's question papers, it was asked something that is legal but unethical, something which is ethical but illegal. अगर ये प्रूफ हो जाए तो ये स्टेटमेंट डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाता है. जैसे सोच कर देखो, कांट ये कह रहे हैं ना कि अगर आप लीगली गिल्टी हो तो एथिकली तो हो गए ही होगे, बिकॉज इन लॉ यू आर गिल्टी when you violate the rights of others, but in ethics you are guilty if you only think of doing so. Suppose you're thinking of murdering someone and you have actually murdered the person. So when you have actually murdered the person, you are guilty in a court of law. But are you already guilty in the court of ethics just by thinking of murdering the person? So can there be any action which is legal but unethical? Think of this. Think of this. Adultery or same-sex marriage or abortion. In many countries, these actions are now legal, aren't they? They are legal in many countries. But a great section of society in those countries, they still feel that these actions are immoral. Do you understand that? Now look here, remember morality and ethics. Morality is your understanding of right and wrong. Ethics is society's understanding of right and wrong. Now, morality and ethics, though they are different, but these words are used interchangeably. So when I use morality, encompassate ethics also in that. Do you understand that? When I use ethics, think of morality also. When I will be distinguishing between them, I'll explicitly highlight that in the class. Do you understand that? The broad word that I'll use is moral. I'll include both morality and ethics in that. So look here, these activities are legal in many countries. Like say for example, think of United States of America. These all actions are legal. You cannot be held guilty if you indulge in any of these actions. But a great section of the American society, especially the conservative Americans, they feel that all these things are immoral or unethical. That destroys Kant's logic, isn't it? It completely destroys Kant's logic. These all things are legal, but unethical. Now, remember, ethics changes with respect to time and space. So your ethics might not be the ethics of somebody else. Do you get it? हो सकता है आपको लगता हो there is nothing wrong in abortion. But maybe that society feels there is something wrong in abortion. Like say for example, in Ireland, abortion is a crime. If you abort in Ireland, then you can understand that that would be a disastrous mistake that you will be committing, and you can even go behind bars in Ireland. Similarly, think of another thing. Think of surrogacy. In India, is it legally permitted, surrogacy? Or is this an illegal activity? Legally permitted. There is surrogacy law also in India. So surrogacy is legally permitted. But many people feel surrogacy is unethical. Do you get it? Are you understanding it? Again, think of something which is legal, but it is unethical. Can you think of something else which is legal but unethical? Think of the slavery laws. of USA? Slavery laws of USA was what? It was legal. If you purchase slaves, you sell slaves, is that a legal action under slavery laws? Yes, legal action. But was it ethical? It was not ethical. Do you understand that? Can we think of anything which is ethical but illegal? सोच सकते हो कुछ? Which is ethical? The action is ethical, but at the same time it is illegal. अभी तक तो हमने वो देखा what is legal but unethical. अब मैं आपसे उल्टा पूछ रहा हूं, सोच कर देखो कुछ जो ethical है but illegal. सोच सकते हो कुछ? Yes, very good. The civil disobedience movement. इसमें करना क्या था? हमको तो सबसे पहले laws को ही तोड़ना था ना. This entire movement was illegal. But was it an unethical movement? It was not an unethical movement. Do you understand that? So this is something that you have to keep in mind. Do you get it? Like say for example, again, think of a law which does not allow abortion. So if you abort by violating the law, is that action illegal now? The law does not permit abortion, but you have aborted. It means you have violated the law. Is your action illegal or not? Yes, it is illegal. But suppose the abortion, the person who has undertaken abortion is a rape survivor. Now you tell me, is that unethical? Is that unethical now? No. So it's not unethical. Or suppose if you do not abort, there would be a danger to the life of the mother. Do you get it? Now you think, is that unethical? No, but it is illegal. Do you understand that? In all societies, जो जैसे कहते हैं ना, जो लॉगर हेड्स पे होता है हमेशा, वो होता है लॉ और एथिक्स. क्योंकि लॉ बहुत जल्दी चेंज हो जाता है. लॉ का क्या है? बस आप पार्लियामेंट में चले जाओ, आप अमेंडमेंट्स कर दो, बन गया. समटाइम्स यू कैन ऑल्सो इशू ऑर्डिनेंसेस टू चेक हाउ पीपल रिएक्ट टू दैट. बट ethics takes some more time to change. Morality takes more time to change. Do you get it? So at 3 levels, there is a constant struggle inside you that goes on. Whether you are aware about that struggle is an altogether different debate. People like, say, those who have attained great level of awakenedness, they are aware about that struggle. Like Nelson Mandela, he was aware about that struggle that goes on inside a person. The struggle of law, ethics, and morality. And this tripartite struggle that goes on inside your mind is one of the reasons for indecisiveness when you fail to take actions, and especially on time. And this indecisiveness is mostly because of this. Now think from the angle of a civil servant. A civil servant has to understand the law, has to imbibe the law, has to respect the ethics of the organization and the society, and has to make sense with his or her own morality. Do you understand that? And that's why at times civil servants, they find themselves in a kind of stagnation, sluggishness. They fail to act, or they act in a very slow manner. Do you get it? But you have to understand the mind of the civil servant. What is required for that? A proper ethical training. That is what is required. Do you understand that? So write down. इसके नीचे 2 bullet लिख लो. Yes. Yes, I'll take that question, dear. Hold on. Yes. Yes. Enfield cartridges, remember? They were going against the religious sentiments. Yes, go on, dear. What was your question? हाँ, बिल्कुल. ऐसा तो कभी नहीं बोल सकते हम कि एथिकल प्रिंसिपल्स जो हैं वो सारे सही भी हैं, क्योंकि कई सोसाइटीज में आपने देखा होगा, लाइक से फॉर एग्जांपल, they do not allow abortion. But in some societies, they allow abortion and they feel that it is ethically correct. So there is something called, in USA, there is a battle that is going on. The battle is pro-life versus pro-choice. Have you heard about it? Pro-choice are abortionists. Pro-life are anti-abortionists. Do you understand that? So pro-choice जो है ये पूरे, अब देखो क्योंकि यूएसए की पॉलिटिक्स है इसलिए मैं बोल रहा हूँ, बट इंडिया के पॉलिटिक्स के सेंस में आपको बिल्कुल नहीं लिखना है कहीं पे भी. बट यूएसए की अगर पॉलिटिक्स हम देखें तो ये पूरा डेमोक्रेट्स जो है वो इधर है, प्रो चॉइस, और पूरे रिपब्लिकन्स जो हैं वो यहाँ हैं। यूएसए में साइड लेना बड़ा आसान है क्योंकि इट्स टू पार्टी सिस्टम in USA. In multi-party system, you can understand the same party will have different stance. Do you get it? And in USA, you understand there is strict separation of powers. तो चाहे आप जो बोल लो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता क्योंकि आपको पार्लियामेंट में जाके तो लॉ बनाना नहीं है इस कांग्रेस में. Do you get it? So yes, dear, that there is a possibility that the ethics of the society itself is unethical. समझ में आ रहा है? Like say for example, yes. No. It should not be always right, dear. Like say for example, I told you in the very first class that in ethics there is nothing like absoluteness. Do you understand that? तो ethics अपने आप में absolute कैसे हो सकता है? The word ethics is not absolute. Nothing is absolute in the word. Nothing is absolute. Only your perception determines the absoluteness. Do you get it? So ethics हमको लगता है कि ये सही, आज आपको लग रहा है कि बहुत सारी चीजें आप कर रहे हो जो सही है, लेकिन आज से 500 साल बाद when people will look back, they will ridicule your actions, saying what kind of action was that? They were using papers to write an examination. How unapologetic, how destructive in their mindset. They were destroying the environment every day. They were studying ecology and environment by destroying the environment. समझ में आ रहा है? तो अभी आप क्या बोलोगे? Can you protest that I will not write the GS3 paper because it is written on paper? You cannot do that. That's the problem, dear. And you have to make sense with it. देखो, एक अंदर ना एक ऐसा जिसे कहते हैं ना, क्या बोलना चाहिए उसके लिए? I'm not getting the right English word for that. But there's a kind of inconsistency that will always be there in your heart when you are studying ethics. There is nothing like absoluteness in ethics. और अगर कोई बोलता है नहीं ऐसा ही होता है, यही सही है, तो समझ जाओ कि वो तो अभी के लिए हो सकता है लग रहा हो सही है. The Britishers also thought that it is good for the Indians if we rule. In fact, the Britishers called themselves as benevolent and invincible rulers of India. This is what they called themselves. Benevolent. Benevolent का मतलब समझते हो? वो जो कभी किसी के लिए गलत नहीं करेगा. Ashoka. Ashoka is an ethical king or an unethical king? You tell me. Ethical king or unethical king? याद रखो, जो भी बोलोगे मैं उल्टा प्रूफ कर दूंगा. अगर आप बोलते हो unethical, तो I'll tell you how many good things he has done for the society. If you say he is an ethical king, I'll say he is a benevolent dictator. Isn't it? He is a dictator. When he made the edicts, was there a parliament? Did the people decide? No, he carved the edicts and he placed it everywhere. Do you understand that? And then asked the people to follow the edict. So what do you call that? A benevolent dictator. So dictatorship in itself is ethical or unethical? Forget about the adjective to it, benevolent or malevolent. Let's forget about that. But dictatorship in itself, can you tolerate that? Would you like a dysfunctional democracy or a great dictatorship? What do you like in the long run? What do you prefer in the long run? A dysfunctional democracy or a great dictatorship? Because you know, you have a hope that you, if it is dysfunctional, you'll make it functional. But with dictatorship, there is no hope. Do you understand that, dear? Then the entire country, all the good work done by the benevolent dictator itself becomes immoral and unethical. Do you get that? So yes, it should disturb you. If it is not disturbing you, then you do not have any moral understanding. It should disturb you. All nomenclatures in ethics should disturb you. But I told you कि देखो philosopher नहीं बनना है. अगर पढ़ते पढ़ते बिल्कुल जोश में नहीं आ जाना, ऐसा नहीं है कि इमैनुअल कांट के बाजू में हमारा भी नाम होना चाहिए. कर लेना वो सब सिलेक्शन के बाद. बट अभी सिर्फ इतना पढ़ो कि जितने से 10 नंबर का क्वेश्चन हो जाए. ठीक है, इस माइंडसेट के साथ पढ़ो. बट हाँ, ये सब्जेक्ट थोड़ा है वैसा कि यू विल गेट कैरिड अवे. सो एनीहाउ, राइट बुलेट वाइज. एक हेडिंग डाल लो छोटा सा पहले, एक्सेप्शंस टू द कांटियन स्टेटमेंट. एक्सेप्शंस टू द कांटियन स्टेटमेंट. Exceptions to the Kantian statement. Exceptions to the Kantian statement. Under this bullet wise, you write, first, there are certain actions. There are certain actions that can be legally correct, that can be legally correct, but ethically wrong, that can be legally correct but ethically wrong in several societies, in several societies. Put a hyphen. For example, adultery, suicide, and same-sex marriage. For example, adultery, suicide, and same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriages, kar lo, marriages are decriminalized in several countries, are decriminalized in several countries by law, put a comma, but still a large section of the society, considers them as morally abhorrent, 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 as morally abhorrent, ABHORRENT. Now look here, abhorrent का मतलब क्या होता है? Disgusting or reprehensible. You don't like it. Got it? Next bullet, you write, similarly, there can be certain actions, which are morally valid, but legally not permitted, which are morally valid but legally not permitted. Morally valid but legally not permitted. Put a hyphen and write, for example, civil disobedience against unjust laws. For example, civil disobedience against unjust laws. Put a semicolon. Slave trade was legal in America. Slave trade was legal in America, but an unethical act. Put a semicolon. Abortion could be illegal in a country. Abortion could be illegal in a country, but morally permissible in special cases. Like rape survivors. Morally permissible in special cases like rape survivors. Now look here, but the major problem with this is how to find out what somebody is thinking. Can you venture into somebody's mind? Well, you can to some extent if you interview that person, or suppose by using other methods, like say for example hallucination or something like that, but let's not go into that territory. But the most difficult thing with respect to this statement is how to look into somebody's mind. What Kant says, he says, in law you are guilty if you violate the rights of others, in ethics you are guilty if you only think of doing so. The question is, how do you know what others are thinking? How do you know that what others are thinking? Do you get it? Now, Kant says that there is a formula by which you can understand what others are thinking. Think of this. Like say for example, what your friend is capable of doing. Like say for example, that suddenly your friend gets 1 lakh rupees, and suppose you are in 10th standard. Now in 10th standard, getting hold of 1 lakh rupees is a great proposition. It's like opening up a secret chest or something like that, right? Lottery lag gayi, aise lagega. Now, what can your friend do with that 1 lakh rupees? How can you come to understand that? Kant says, look into your own mind and imagine what you can do with 1 lakh rupees. Your friend will be definitely thinking on those lines as well. Do you understand that? In very simple words, he says कि कौन कितना बुरा कर सकता है ये जानने के लिए ये सोचो कि तुम खुद कितने बुरे हो सकते हो. But again, this statement looks very subjective. Do you understand that? क्योंकि अब if Buddha is thinking what wrong somebody can do by looking into what wrong he can do, he'll not be able to understand the wrong of anybody. Do you get it? So to find out the darkness of somebody's mind, Kant says, look into your own darkness. Do you get it? Like say for example, suppose you have done something mischievous, let's call it mischievous, though there could be other adjectives for that, in school. And the school authorities have called your parents. And your parents in a parent-teacher meeting or something like that, you know, all the beans were spilled. जो भी आपके कारनामे थे स्कूल में सारे सब कुछ बताए गए अच्छे से, और अब आपके फादर या मदर जो भी बड़े भाई बहन जो भी होंगे घर में, उन्होंने बोला कि ठीक है शाम को एक काम करते, तुम अपने दोस्त को बुला कर ले आना. ठीक है, अब आप अपने दोस्त के घर गए हो और आपने अपने दोस्त को बाहर बुलाया, और अब आप उसके घर से अपने घर तक जब तक आ रहे हो, यू आर अ कांस्टेंट काउंसल टू योर फ्रेंड. You are doing constant counseling that what you have to say, what you have not to say. Why you are doing so? Because you know that if the same situation is reversed and if you are being called, do you understand that? What can you say about your friend before his parents? The same your friend can also do about you in front of your parents. Do you understand that? तो आपका दोस्त कितना गिर सकता है ये जानने के लिए ये सोचो कि आप खुद कितने गिर सकते हो. That is what Kant is saying. Do you get it? But this itself looks very dicey. Got it? So write a note. The major problem, however, with this statement is to find an answer to the question. Put a hyphen and write the question. How can we look into other people's thought? How can we look into other people's thought? Question mark. Put a hyphen again. There is no way of knowing what others are thinking. There is no way of knowing what others are thinking. Put a full stop. Now under that note, you write these words, line of defense. Put a hyphen and write against it, line of defense, put a hyphen and write in quotation form and use a different ink if possible. Knowing our own darkness is the best way to know the darkness of others. Unquote. Full stop. So with this we understand that ethics is not law as well. Ethics is not morality. Ethics is not law. The next thing that we'll see is ethics is not religion. So C, you write ethics is not religion. Ethics is not religion. Now, you tell me, what do you understand by religion? How do you define religion? Give me a definition of religion. Not necessarily that has to be a scientifically correct definition. Any definition of religion as per you. What is religion? Yes, go on. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yes. Go. Common tradition. Okay. Now, can I say all religions are actually systems? They are systems. Systems that emerge from the society. And all religions are a system of belief, rituals, practices, ideas, viewpoint, traditions, customs, etc. And a religious person subscribes to this system and organizes his life with respect to this system or with the help of this system. Do you understand that? Now, all religions, all primary religions of the world, if you see, in fact, every religion of the world, if you see, stands on three major pillars: truth, justice, and compassion. All religions talk about these three things. Do you understand that? But ethics is not religion. Because what is ethics? Ethics is a set of standards and principles which the society places over itself, and in the light of which human actions and other things are judged as right and wrong, good or bad. A religious person can be ethical as well, because religion is one of the sources for ethical principles and standards. So most of the people who are highly religious, you will feel that they are also very ethical. Now, being religious and being fanatic is two different things. Do you understand that? So if you are highly religious, then you will be ethical as well, because most of the religions, they propagate, advise, and prescribe ethics, because the pillars are truth, compassion, and justice. Do you get it? But a person who is not religious at all, is he exempted from ethics of the society? Do you understand that? So, to be ethical, it is not necessary you have to be religious as well. Though many people who are highly religious are ethical as well. But to be ethical, it is not necessary you have to be religious. Ethics applies on everybody: the religious, the antagonistic, the agnostic, everybody. One who is irreligious, ethics apply on him as well. One who is non-religious, ethics applies on him as well. One who is anti-religious, ethics applies on him as well. One who is an atheist, is he or she exempted from ethics? No. So ethics is not religion. समझ में आया? Ethics is not religion. So write down. Ethics is not religion. See, under that bullet wise you write, religion is an organized collection of beliefs, systems, views, and duties which a religious person shall follow. Next point: truth, compassion, and justice. Truth, compassion, and justice are the pillars of any religion. Truth, compassion, and justice are the pillars of any religion. Next point: through religion, a person attains inner purification and develops a moral understanding of good, bad, right, and wrong. Good, bad, right, and wrong. Next point: though most religions advocate and recommend high ethical standards, ethics is not religion. Ethics is not religion. Put a full stop. Many people are not religious. Many people are not religious. But ethics applies to all. But ethics applies to all, irrespective of the religion one follows. Irrespective of the religion one follows, or even for those who do not follow any religion. Even for those who do not follow any religion. Got it? Now, ethics is also not following any convention. What is a convention? A convention is nothing but a social practice. It could be a custom, it could be a tradition. Conventions are nothing but unwritten laws of the society. They are conventions. Like some conventions could be ethical. Like say for example, helping the needy is a convention of the society. Now that looks very ethical, at least prima facie it looks very ethical. But there can be at the same time in a society certain conventions which are outrightly immoral. Immoral to any person who has developed some level of moral understanding. Like say for example, think of child marriage. Child marriage could be a convention in a society, but can you defend child marriage? Child marriage cannot be defended either legally or medically or ethically. Do you understand that? So child marriage, though is a convention, it might not be the ethics of the society. Do you get it? So again, another example would be untouchability. Think of this. A society may be practicing untouchability, but untouchability in no case can be called as an ethical practice. So untouchability is not ethical. Ethical for a civilized society. For an uncivilized society, yes, you can very well practice such kind of immoral things. Another example in point could be triple talaq. Triple talaq is again, no civilized society can tolerate that. Do you understand that? And in fact, it's a later day evolution. If say for example, think of Lord Ram. If Lord Ram would come and he would come to know about something like untouchability, he will be surprised because he has no idea about anything like that existing in the society. Do you understand that? The Ram Rajya that Gandhi also talks about is one which is fair and just. Similarly, if you think about Prophet Muhammad, he comes and he learns about triple talaq. He will be surprised because he never advocated anything like that in his life. Do you understand that? So write down next. D, you write ethics is not conventions. Ethics is not conventions. Ethics is not conventions. Now write bullet wise under that. First bullet. A convention is a set of agreed. A convention is a set of agreed, stipulated, or generally accepted standards, put a comma, social norms, or other criteria, put a comma, often taking the form of a custom, Next point. In a social context, a convention may retain the character of an unwritten law. retain the character of an unwritten law which everyone obeys. Which everyone obeys. Next, ethics is not following a culturally accepted norm, or any convention of society, as such conventions or norms could be totally unethical. Put a hyphen. For example, child marriage, comma, untouchability, or triple talaq. Child marriage, untouchability, or triple talaq. Put a full stop. Now look here. Have you heard about this statement or this saying ever in your life? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Have you heard about this? This is not a satisfactory ethical justification. Do you understand that? You go to a society and you see everybody is killing everybody else to get hold of their property. सुबह होते होते सारा घर के जितने लोग होते हैं सब हाथ में बंदूक तलवार लेकर निकलते हैं और सोचते हैं पड़ोसी को मार के उसका पूरा सब कुछ अपने पास ले लें, ठीक है? और पूरे मोहल्ले में यही चल रहा है. When you go to that society, will you be doing the same kind of things? Maybe if you feel that you cannot stop that, you will come out of that society. Do you get that? So when in Rome, do as the Romans do is not a good ethical justification. अब देखो, confuse मत होना. Conventions can be one of the sources for ethics, but all conventions are ethical is not necessary. Do you get it? So we are talking about those conventions which are not part of the set of the ethics. Do you get it? So write in the form of a quotation, change the ink. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Unquote. और continuation में लिख लो, is not a satisfactory ethical explanation. Is not a satisfactory ethical explanation. Ethical explanation. Got it? अच्छा, एक चीज ध्यान में रखो that so far how many scholars we have already seen in the class? Can you name some of them? Saint Thomas Aquinas. What was his book? Summa Theologica. He talked about what? Human action. And he said there are 3 elements that make any action a human action. Can you tell me those elements? Knowledge. बिल्कुल सही. ठीक है. The second scholar is Marcus Tullius Cicero. And what idea did he propose? Summum bonum. Summum bonum means ultimate. ठीक है. आज हमने एक और देख लिया. Immanuel Kant. ठीक है. And he is talking in terms of law and ethics. He says that in law you are guilty if you violate the rights of others. In ethics you are guilty if you only think of doing so. तो अभी तक तो स्कॉलर स्टार्ट भी नहीं हुए, समझ में आ रहा है? बट अगर आप उनको कॉन्टेक्स्ट में पढ़ोगे और फ्लो में पढ़ोगे तो स्कॉलर्स वाला हिस्सा जो है वो सबसे आसान होता है पूरे एथिक्स में, ठीक है? और यही है जो आपके आंसर को थोड़ा डिफरेंट बनाएगा, वरना तो हर कोई वही लिख रहा है, जो आप लिखोगे वही लिखेंगे वो भी, ठीक है? हाउ मच कैन यू डिफेंड दैट विथ स्कॉलरली व्यू? डू यू गेट इट? दैट इज व्हाट इज द की टू दिस examination success. Also, how many times you use quotes? How many times you use something like, so for example, if you're writing an answer in Indian polity, something related to constitution, and you give an excerpt from a speech made by Dr. Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly, will that add more weight to your arguments? Similarly, when you are writing something, when you are writing something related to ethics, And if you also can back it with some quotations, with some thoughts, with the views of some scholars, definitely it will add more weight to your arguments. But ध्यान रखना इस बात का कि कोट करना, मिसकोट मत करना, कुछ भी हो जाए misquote मत करना. Do you understand that? Many times I have seen that students, they misquote. Well, I was going through one of the copies last year in the last batch, and यही ऐसा ही कुछ क्वेश्चन था जिसमें उसने लिखा था, ये वाला कोटेशन जो अभी हमने लिखा, when in Rome do as the Romans do. शायद वो भूल गया होगा उस बात को, तो उसने अपने से एक कोटेशन लिखा, when in Lucknow you should not always smile. That's the core of ethics. अब बताओ क्या बोले इस पे. ठीक है, मतलब उसने खुद से बनाया है एक. तो इस तरीके के स्टेटमेंट्स मत बनाना. ठीक. सो लेट्स मूव टू द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक. हम क्या कर रहे थे, याद है आपको? टॉपिक याद है? बताओ कौन सा टॉपिक था? एथिक्स, एसेंस, डिटर्मिनेंट्स एंड कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस ऑफ एथिक्स इन ह्यूमन एक्शन. तो ह्यूमन एक्शन समझ में आ गया, एसेंस ऑफ एथिक्स समझ में आ गया. क्या है एसेंस ऑफ एथिक्स? समम बोनम, याद रखना. और समम बोनम सब स्कॉलर्स के हिसाब से डिफरेंट चीजें हैं. ठीक है. और एथिक्स क्या नहीं है, ये भी एसेंस है एथिक्स का. सो व्हाट एथिक्स इज नॉट? एथिक्स इज नॉट morality, ethics is not religion, ethics is not law, and ethics is not following any culturally accepted convention. Got it? So with that we finish essence of ethics. Now we go to the second part of this topic, which is determinants of ethics. So give a heading, determinants of ethics in human actions. Determinants of ethics in human actions. Now drop your pen and look here very carefully. अच्छा, डिटर्मिनेंट का मतलब क्या होता है? डिटर्मिनेंट का मतलब क्या होता है? Have you encountered this word in mathematics? Determinant. डिटर्मिनेंट का मतलब क्या होता है? Okay, components. Determinant simply means that if you are finding out something, or if you are establishing something, what are the factors that you have to keep into consideration? They are the determinants. Do you understand that? It means what determines a fair society? Justice, liberty, equality. These are the determinants of a fair society. तो अब हम क्या समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं? Determinants of ethics in what? Human actions. तो देखो, 3 determinant होते हैं. Most of the scholars believe that these 3 determinants have to be taken into consideration when we are evaluating ethics in human action. What are they? First is the object of the action. Second is the circumstances of the action. And third is the end or purpose of the action. We have to consider these 3 things to determine the ethics in the action. Do you get it? Now, what do we mean by object? Object refers to the very thing that is being done. That is what object is. It means when we ask the question, what did he do? We are referring to the object of the action. Object is the action itself, the very thing that is being done. Like say for example, X kills Y. The object is killing. Do you understand that? So if we are looking at the object, we will ask the question, what? This is what we will be interested in. Whenever we will be looking at the object, we'll be looking at the question, what? What did he do? What did she do? Only after that, we will look into the further moral questions. So object means the very thing that is being done. What is circumstances? Circumstances means the time, the situation, and the place where the action was committed. It means when we are trying to answer the question where and when, and you know, where is a concept of space, whereas when is a concept of time. So when we are looking at spatial and temporal aspects of the action, we are looking at the circumstances. And in what situation did X killed Y? Now, if I say X kills Y, and if the moral code is nobody should kill anybody, then based on that moral code, you will declare X action as unethical. But if I say that if X would not have killed Y, Y would have killed X. So X has killed Y in self-defense. Now you tell me, is that action ethical now? So you have to look at the circumstances also, when and where. End or purpose means that why the action was being performed. Do you get it? So when we try to answer the question why, we are looking at the end. Do you get it? End means the motive that you have in mind, why you are performing this action. Do you get it? Like say for example, A is preparing for civil services examination. अब मेरे को बताओ, एक चीज मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ. A is preparing for civil services examination. Presently, he is in Old Rajendra Nagar, and his aim is to become an IAS officer. अब मेरे को बताओ इसमें ऑब्जेक्ट क्या है? Preparation. Do you understand that? Circumstances क्या है? ORN. Or suppose if I add an year also to that, 2023, 24, circumstances हो गए ये भी, ठीक है. And what is the end? समझ में आ गया? These are the determinants of ethics in any human action. आप मेरे को बताओ, ये छोड़कर, इनमें से एक भी छोड़कर, आप बता सकते हो ethics? आपको ये सब कुछ कंसिडर करना पड़ेगा. What did he do? Where and when did he do? Why did he do? You ask all these questions. Only then you establish morality or immorality in the action. Did you get that? So write down. Bullet wise. Most moralists, yes. What about? See, here we are talking about actions, dear. What is the topic? Determinants of ethics in human action. Thoughts तो अपने आप evaluate होंगे. But I told you that it is very difficult to understand somebody's thought. इसलिए action को ही mostly देखा जाता है. क्योंकि कोई ये बोल रहा है कि मैं चैरिटी करता हूँ क्योंकि मैं बहुत अच्छा आदमी हूँ. हो सकता है वो चैरिटी कर रहा है क्योंकि उसको अपना पब्लिक इमेज सुधारना है. Do you understand that? तो कैसे पता करोगे आप? तो एक्शन को ही देखोगे ना. So write down bullet wise. First, most moralists believe that to judge the goodness or badness, of any particular human act, goodness or badness of any particular human act, three elements must be weighed in. Three elements must be weighed in. W-E-I-G-H-E-D. Weighed in or factored in. Weighed in. From which every act derives its morality. From which every act derives its morality. अब उसके आगे एक हाइफन डालो और फिर उसी बुलेट के नीचे ABC करके लिख लो. A, the object of the action. B, the circumstances in which the action is performed. And C, the end or purpose of the action. End or purpose of the action. Got it? अब क्या करेंगे, हम इन तीनों चीजों को थोड़ा डिटेल में समझेंगे. So give a subheading now. The object of the action. Now under this you write bullet wise. First bullet, the object of the human action. The object of the human action is the very thing being done. The object of the human action is the very thing being done. Put a full stop. The object of an action answers the question. Put a hyphen. change the ink and write in single inverted commas what, W-H-A-T, what, close the inverted commas, or what did he do, question mark, or what did he do. Next bullet, object is the prime element, object is the prime element of moral evaluation. Got it? Now, look here very carefully. Drop your pen. We are trying to understand the object of a human action. Object means the very thing being done. Object answers the question what. Object can be good. Object can be bad. And object can be indifferent. Now look here, very carefully. Object can be good, object can be bad, or object could be indifferent. Indifferent means neither good nor bad. Like say for example, think of this. Stealing. X stole some money from Y. So what is the object? Stealing. The very act being done is the object. Now what do you say? Stealing is good, bad, or indifferent? It is a bad action. Do you understand that? Suppose X saved the life of Y. Can I say the action is good? Do you understand that? Saving somebody's life is a good action or bad action? Good action. Now X was sitting on a chair. What do you say? Sitting on a chair is good or bad? Indifferent. You have to consider other things also. He was sitting for what? Do you get it? So in that point itself, the point that you were writing, write in continuation. From the viewpoint of object, from the viewpoint of object, an act can be classified as, put a hyphen and write good, bad, or indifferent. Good, bad, or indifferent. Now look here, ध्यान से देखना. An action whose object is bad may become more bad due to the circumstances or the purpose. Do you get it? Like say for example, telling a lie. Is it a bad action? Speaking the lie is a bad action. But if lie is being told to destroy the dignity of a person, it is worse. Do you get it? So what is the purpose in mind? To destroy somebody's dignity. Do you get it? An action which object is bad may become less bad or more bad depending upon the circumstances and the purpose, but can never become good. ये ध्यान रखना. An object which action is bad will remain bad, though it may become less bad. Like say for example, if somebody killed another person in self-defense, then it is less bad than murder, but notwithstanding the self-defense, killing someone is morally wrong. Do you understand that? So if an action's object is bad, it will remain bad and nothing can make it good ever. समझ में आया? Now think of this. An action whose object is good may become bad due to the circumstances or the purpose in mind. Do you get it? Like say for example, suppose there is a person X and suppose he is a child, his age is say 14 years, and what happened was, suppose X father, he was found in some malpractices. Suppose he was a corrupt public official and hence he was nabbed by the authorities and he was suspended from his office and is presently in jail. Do you understand that? Now X is facing a lot of financial hardship as well as emotional hardship. You can understand, he's just a child. There's no idea about what his father has done. Now X joins a new school. In that school, he meets Y. Y is a classmate of X. And Y also happens to be the neighbor of X. So he has all the idea about his father's antecedents. Do you get it? Now X carves a friendship with Z. Z also is a classmate in the new school. And Z suddenly asks, in Y's attendance, X, what your father does? Do you understand that? Now Y says, oh, you don't know about X's father? He's in jail. He's a corrupt public official. Now you tell me, is this action ethical? Is this action ethical? What is the purpose in mind? The purpose in mind is not to spill the truth, but to destroy the dignity of X. Do you understand that? So even a good action, like speaking the truth, may become bad due to the purpose in mind. Here, silence would have sufficed. आप ये मत बोलो कि नहीं, X father was actually a great saint. Don't do that. You say, I have no idea. Or you just circumvent the question. Do you get it? Now, you can relate it to, with respect to, say, rape survivors, acid attack victims. आप सब कुछ सोच कर देख सकते हो. Do you understand that? Similarly, think of this. An act which is indifferent, like sitting or walking, may become good or bad depending upon the purpose or circumstances. Like sitting, is this a good action or a bad action? Indifferent. Do you understand that? But sitting near a person who is facing some sort of depression or a lonely person, now what do you call that action? Good action, because you're giving that person some sort of company. Walking is what kind of action? Indifferent. Walking past an accident site without helping the victim, now what do you call walking? Bad action. समझ में आया? तो ऑब्जेक्ट को हम आइसोलेशन में कभी नहीं देख सकते. हमको हमेशा क्या देखना पड़ेगा? The circumstances and the purpose or the end. Do you get it? Write down. Next bullet. The following principles apply. The following principles apply to the object of. The following principles apply to the object of every action. Apply to the object of every action. Following principles apply to the object of every action. Put a hyphen. After that, you can write as A, B, C. A. An action whose object is bad. An action whose object is bad will remain bad. Will remain bad. And nothing can improve it. And nothing can improve it. Full stop. For example, a lie remains a lie. A lie remains a lie, despite the circumstances or purpose. Despite the circumstances or purpose. Despite the circumstances or purpose. B. An action whose object is good. An action whose object is good may become bad. May become bad due to the circumstances or purpose. Due to the circumstances or purpose. Put a full stop. For example, telling the truth. For example, telling the truth is a good action. For example, telling the truth is a good action. Put a comma. But if truth is being told, but if truth is being told in a situation where silence would have sufficed, where silence would have sufficed, or truth is being told, or truth is being told to destroy told to destroy the dignity of an individual, the dignity of an individual, then such telling of truth, then such telling of truth becomes a bad action. Becomes a bad action. Next, C. An action that is indifferent. An action that is indifferent. In bracket, you write neither good nor bad. Neither good nor bad. Close the bracket. May become good or bad. May become good or bad due to the circumstances or purpose. Due to the circumstances or purpose. For example, sitting, in bracket you write indifferent act, close the bracket, near a lonely person, is good, put a semicolon. Similarly, walking, put a bracket and write within it indifferent act, close the bracket, past an accident site, without helping the victim, is a bad action. Put a full stop. Now look here. आपने कभी ऐसे केस स्टडीज देखे हैं? Today is your day of interview, and as you are going to the examination center or the interview center, you see that there is a person lying on the road who has recently met with an accident. He is lying in a pool of blood. There is nobody to help around. This is your last attempt. If you miss the interview, then your chances of becoming a civil servant are over. Will you allow the person to die on the road, or will you go and give your interview? मतलब इस टाइप का कुछ केस स्टडी होता है, ठीक है. अब लोग उसमें लिखते रहते अपने however, moreover, याद है ना, ये सब कुछ अपना अपना लगा कर लिखते रहते. बट अगर आप ऐसा कुछ लिखते हो and then back it with scholarly thought, defend it with a law of the land, obviously you'll get marks. Do you get it? So this was the first part, the object of the action. पहला determinant. दूसरा determinant लिखो. Yes. Yes, I'll take that question, dear. Hold on. Yes. If there is an accident and there is nobody else to help, and you are capable of helping in whatsoever little manner, like say for example you are capable of calling on the helpline number, और आप वो भी नहीं करते हो, then it is immoral. Do you understand that? Now, look here. The point is, there is already an assumption that you are making here, that the accident is a make-believe kind of setup. So, तो फिर तो बिल्कुल केस ही अलग हो जाता है. We are assuming that it is a real accident. आपने देखा होगा कई बार, like say for example, you go to some outskirts of the cities and there would be somebody asking for a lift or something like that, and when you stop your vehicle, then people will come around, snatching, ये सब कुछ होता है ना, वो they throw eggs on the windshield of your car, and the moment you move your wipers, an entire sight is blurred. Now you have to stop the vehicle now. तो ये तो smartness हो गई कि what you have to do, right? But here we are talking in the sense, dear, that we are assuming that things are ethical. Got it? Yes, go on, dear. What was your question?
She said object is bad. Suppose there are some that is that are looking at
Okay, you are saying that suppose somebody is lying behind the curtains. You are referring to yesterday's example? Are you referring to that? Okay, go again, go again. Speak slowly and highlight your case. Okay. Hmm. 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 Yes. 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 I got your question there. So you have told a lie to save a person's life, right? That is the case. Is that ethical? Now, that is ethical and unethical, depending upon from which ethical viewpoint you are looking at it. Like, say, for example, if you're looking at it from a consequentialist viewpoint, consequentialists believe that if the consequences are good, everything is good. So, scholars like Jeremy Bentham, John Stuart Mill, they will defend it. What you are saying, they will defend it. But people like Immanuel Kant and all, they would say that no, some actions are inherently wrong and you cannot indulge into them. So what? That the terrorist will kill the person. How can you lie? Like, are you all aware about the famous ethical episode from the Mahabharata war where Dharmaraj Yudhishthir lied? Are you aware about that? Where he lied about the death of Ashwathama, right? But just take that episode out of the war. Are you understanding it? If you take that episode out of the war, the consequences of the war could be totally different. So consequentialists would defend that action. But there were so many people who cursed the people who lied at that time because they thought that a person whom we trust that he will never lie has lied. So when we talk about the object remains bad, but it is very less bad. Or you can say that if this is good and this is bad, and what you are saying that you have lied because you wanted to save the person's life, then it is bad, but it is very near to good. Suppose here bad ends and from here good starts. So it is very near to good, but it is not good, according to non-consequentialists. Do you understand that? Is that thing clear now? Hmm. 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 No. Uh-huh. For that you have to take a stance. आप कुछ भी ले सकते हो. I told you that in ethics आपको कोई भी आंसर लिख सकते हो, हर आंसर सही होता है, बस आप उसको डिफेंड कैसे करते हो. पर याद रखना, जब आप एथिक्स का पेपर लिख रहे हो तो एक सबसे बड़ा एथिकल डॉक्यूमेंट हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, उसको वायलेट मत कर देना. ऐसे मत करना अपने एथिक्स के चक्कर में यू आर वायलेटिंग आईपीसी, सीआरपीसी और फंडामेंटल राइट्स, देन इट विल नॉट बी डिफेंडेड. यू गेट दैट? So here, suppose if you save the life and you say that I have done this because I wanted to uphold Article 21 of the person, then it's correct. But you have to defend it with an ethical viewpoint as well. Do you get it? But purely from the technical viewpoint, the object remains bad. Yes, go on. Okay. Okay. So write down next one. The circumstances of the action. The circumstances of the action. This is the second thing. Now you know circumstances refers to where and when the action was performed. So write down bullet wise. Circumstances refer to the situation or condition in which the action is performed. Put a full stop. The circumstances of any action answers the question put a hyphen, change the ink and write in single inverted commas where and when. close the inverted commas, and then write or where and when the action was performed. The action was performed, question mark. Now look here, drop your pen and look here very carefully. Circumstances can also be of three types. जैसे ऑब्जेक्ट तीन तरीके के थे, क्या क्या था? Good, bad and indifferent. Circumstances can also be of three types. Circumstances can be aggravating. Circumstances can be extenuating. And circumstances can be specifying. अब ध्यान से समझना इसका फर्क क्या है. Circumstances are aggravating if they increase the goodness or badness of an action. It means if the action is already good and the circumstances are aggravating, it will make it better. Do you understand that? If the action is bad, if the circumstances are aggravating, it will make it worse. It means they will increase whatever is there. If it is good, it will increase the goodness. If it is bad, it will increase the badness. Do you understand that? Circumstances are extenuating when they will decrease the goodness or badness of an action. Like, so for example, if the action is good and the circumstances are extenuating, it will make it less good. If the action is bad and the circumstances are extenuating, it will make it less bad. Aggravate हो जाना मतलब हम बोलते हैं ना, situation got aggravated. Aggravate means to increase. Extenuate means to decrease. Do you understand that? So circumstances are aggravating if they make an action more good or more bad. Circumstances are extenuating if they make the action less good or less bad. And circumstances are specifying if they make an indifferent action as good or bad. Kuch bhi. Do you understand that? Let me give you some examples. Let's take this into consideration first. Aggravating circumstances. And think of this, that feeding, it means giving food to a person. What do you say? This is a good action or a bad action? Feeding someone, good action. Feeding a person who was suffering from chronic hunger. इसका मतलब समझते हो? Has not eaten for days, say for example. Now what do you say? This is more good or less good? More. Do you understand that? Then let's take another action which is bad. Like say for example, say for example, using violence against an adult. Is that bad? Is that bad? Now using violence against a child, is that worse? Is that worse? Do you get that? So these are examples of aggravating circumstances. Extenuating means it decreases the goodness or badness. Like say for example, gifting say luxurious car. Think of any luxurious car, say for example Rolls Royce. You are gifting Rolls Royce to a super rich, ultra rich friend who can afford it. Here just suggesting the model would be sufficient. Do you understand that? But आप gift कर रहे हो उनको जो already afford कर सकते. So this is good. Giving a gift is always good, but less good. Do you get it? Similarly, think of this. Stealing money from bank. What do you say? This is good or bad? Bad. But stealing money from the homeless is worse. So stealing money from bank is less bad when compared to stealing money from the homeless. Do you get it? Specifying. Specifying means indifferent act. Like say for example, calling. Calling is good or bad? Indifferent. आप नहीं बता सकते, आपको बताना पड़ेगा circumstances क्या थे. Suppose somebody called the fire station because a fire has broken out in the neighborhood. What do you say now? The action. Good. Do you understand that? Taking money from a wallet. or a drawer, something like that. या आपने drawer open किया, पैसे निकाल लिए, या wallet से पैसे निकाल लिए. Good or bad? Indifferent. But taking money from your father's wallet without his knowledge. Now what do you say it? Bad. It means you are taking money from the wallet that does not belong to you. समझ में आया? So circumstances could be aggravating, extenuating, or specific. Next point, you right? Circumstances can be, put a hyphen, aggravating, comma, extenuating, 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 or specifying, Now put a hyphen और उसके नीचे ABC करके लिख लो. A, circumstances are aggravating when they increase the goodness, or badness of an action. Goodness or badness of an action. Put a full stop. For example, feeding a man who is starving. Feeding a man who is starving is more good than feeding a person who can afford his food. Put a full stop. Similarly, stealing money from the needy is more bad than taking money from a person who is affluent. Put a full stop. Now look here, does that mean stealing in a rich man's home is legally correct and ethically correct? That doesn't mean so. Do you understand that? Second, B. Circumstances are extenuating. No, we are not considering that. Write down. Circumstances are extenuating. That would be a crime. Do you understand that? Somebody is fasting, say, for religious purposes, and you are forcefully feeding the person. That would be ethically wrong. Second, you write, circumstances are extenuating when they decrease the goodness or badness of an action. Put a full stop. For example, a luxurious car giving a luxurious car as a gift to a rich friend who can afford it. In bracket you write, here suggesting the model of the car would be sufficient. Close the bracket, put a semicolon. Violence against an adult is bad. But less bad than violence against a child. अच्छा, एक चीज देखो, अक्सर ऐसा होता है कि नहीं, that we give things as gift to people who can actually afford it. Have you seen that? Many times we do that, and gifts are considered as part of social conduct. In many societies, if you go, gifts, exchange of gifts is considered as a morally correct action, especially in societies like Japan, where there is a culture of giving gifts. They have a gift for every occasion, and the nature of the gift, the quality of the gift, the message in the gift, all these things, the Japanese, they take it very seriously. Do you understand that? In India also, you see that there is a culture of giving gifts, but most of the time we give gifts to people who can already afford it. होता है कि नहीं ऐसा? ये मतलब वैसा ही है कि इंग्लिश बोलते ही उनके सामने जिनको नहीं आती. Right on, next. C. Circumstances are specifying when they make an indifferent act, good or bad. For example, calling and an indifferent act, calling, put a comma, an indifferent act, put a comma, the nearest fire station, if fire breaks out in the neighborhood, is a good act. Fire breaks out in the neighborhood is a good act. Put a full stop. Taking money from a wallet, put a comma, an indifferent act, put a comma again, becomes bad if the wallet belongs to someone else. And the money is taken without the owner's permission. Got it? So look here, circumstances can be aggravating, circumstances can be extenuating, and circumstances can be specifying. तो चलो वो भी कर लेते हैं. राइट डाउन. अच्छा, स्पेसिफाइंग वाला लिख लिया ना हमने? हाँ, हो गया. चलो, तो फिर हमने क्या क्या देख लिया? We have seen the object, we have seen the circumstances. What was the third determinant? End or purpose. Now, if object answers the question what, circumstances when and where, what does end answers? Why. So give ahead. The end or purpose of an action. The end or purpose of an action. Or purpose of an action. Now write bullet wise. The end or purpose refers to the ultimate thing, that a person seeks to achieve. Ultimate thing that a person seeks to achieve through the action. Put a full stop. The end of an action answers the question. The end of an action answers the question. Put a hyphen and write in single inverted commas, change the ink, why. Answers the question, why. Or why the action was performed. अब ध्यान से देखो इधर. An indifferent act may become good or bad depending upon the purpose. A good act may become better, less good, or even bad, depending upon the purpose. A bad act may become less bad or even worse, depending upon the purpose. But remember, an action whose object is bad will remain bad. It can never become good. Let me give you some examples. Think of an indifferent act. Think of this, running. Running is an indifferent act, but when done to maintain health, becomes a good action. Now, running off a cliff to commit suicide becomes a bad action. Do you understand that? So, an indifferent act may become good or bad depending upon the purpose. End क्या है? End is to maintain health. End is to kill yourself. Do you get that? Now, think of a good act. Like, say, for example, feeding someone. Feeding someone who is suffering from hunger is a better action. Feeding someone who is already well fed is still good, but less good. Feeding someone so that you can lure the person in committing a crime, then the act of feeding itself becomes immoral. Do you get that? Think of a bad act, like say for example, lying would be a bad act. Lying to save somebody's dignity, less bad. Lying to destroy somebody's dignity, worst. Do you get it? So write down. Next bullet you write, the following principles apply. The following principles apply to the end of every action. The following principles apply to the end of every action. The following principles apply to the end of every action. Put a hyphen and then write as A, B, C, A. An action that is indifferent, an action that is indifferent because of its object, indifferent because of its object, may become good or bad, may become good or bad due to its purpose, due to its purpose. Put a full stop. For example, running. For example, running. Put a bracket and write an indifferent act. Close the bracket. An indifferent act. Close the bracket. Put a hyphen and write when done to maintain health. When done to maintain health is good. Is good. But when done to commit suicide, but when done to commit suicide, becomes bad. Becomes bad. Next you write B, second one B. An action that is good. An action that is good because of its object. An action that is good because of its object may become better. May become better. Put a comma. Less good. Or even worse. Or even worse. Due to its purpose. Due to its purpose. Put a full stop. For example, giving food to the hungry. For example, giving food to the hungry is a good action. Is a good action. Put a semicolon. If food is given to get rid of the person, if food is given to get rid of the person, it is still good. It is still good, but not as good as in the first case. But not as good as in the first case. Put a semicolon. If food is given to lure, it means lalach dikhane ke liye, to lure the person into doing into doing something evil or immoral, something evil or immoral, put a comma, then the act of feeding itself, then the act of feeding itself becomes an immoral act, becomes an immoral act. C, an action that is bad, an action that is bad because of its object, an action that is bad because of its object may become less bad, may become less bad or worse, may become less bad or worse due to its purpose, due to its purpose. Put a full stop. However, put a comma, it can never become good. However, it can never become good, irrespective of its purpose, irrespective of its purpose. Put a full stop. For example, telling a lie is morally wrong. For example, telling a lie is morally wrong. Put a comma. But telling a lie to defame another person, but telling a lie to defame another person is more wrong, is more wrong. Put a full stop. Telling a lie to get out of trouble, telling a lie to get out of trouble, or to protect the interests of another person, to protect the interests of another person is still lying, but less wrong, is still lying but less wrong because of the purpose, because of the purpose. Put a full stop. But telling a lie in itself, but telling a lie in itself can never be considered, can never be considered as a good action. Telling a lie in itself can never be considered as a good action. Now, have you heard about this principle ever? The means end principle. Not only the end matters, but also the means matter. Not only the goal matters, but also the path taken to reach to that goal matters. So, good end cannot justify bad means. This is the classical sense of morality that you will find in the writings of Immanuel Kant and Gandhi. Do you understand that? So, put a hyphen and write in continuation of that point, जो आप point लिख रहे थे, एक hyphen डाल के लिखो, quotation form में change the ink. Good ends cannot justify bad means. Good ends cannot justify bad means. Unquote. Put a hyphen again and write classical sense of morality. Classical sense of morality found in the ethics of Kant and Gandhi. Found in the ethics of Kant and Gandhi. Yes, that is problematic. How do we decide which thing to follow? Consequentialism, non-consequentialism. एक और brand of ethics है, वो तो ये कहता है कि दोनों गलत. And people who prescribe that kind of ethics are Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, etc. They say virtue ethics. Have you heard about something like that? They say focus on your character. Forget about the consequences or the action. Focus on the person. Do you get it? Which one to follow? See, remember one approach that we will be following while we will be learning this is the situational approach. Remember that? Situational approach means जैसे सिचुएशन आएगी हम वैसे अप्रोच फॉलो करेंगे, क्योंकि हमारी जो सोसाइटल एथिक्स है वो किसी एक टाइप की नहीं है। डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? और आप ही देखोगे अपने आप को, कभी आप कॉन्सिक्वेंशलिस्ट बन जाते हो, कभी नॉन कॉन्सिक्वेंशलिस्ट बन जाते हो, कभी वर्च्यू एथिसिस्ट बन जाते हो, कभी आप डिओंटोलॉजिस्ट बन जाते हो, कभी आप थियोलॉजियन बन जाते हो, कभी आप डिवाइन कमांड थ्योरी में यकीन रखते हो, कभी आप बुद्धाज लाइन ऑफ थॉट में चले जाते हो। यू विल फाइंड दैट ये स्कॉलर्स जो भी बातें करेंगे, यू विल सी दैट यू ऑलरेडी नो दीज थिंग्स इन योर लाइफ, बट दे पुट इट इन अ मोर साइंटिफिक फैशन एंड ऑर्गेनाइज्ड लैंग्वेज. Hmm. Hmm. It depends absolutely on you. Absolutely on you, whom you would like to follow. Because then that would be, let me use that term, but do not use this term in the examination ever. That would be ethical colonialism. समझ में आ रहा है कि आपके माइंड को मैं कॉलोनाइज कर दूंगा और मैं बोलूंगा कि यही सही होता है. Don't go by that. Evaluate yourself. Otherwise, how are you testing your morality? Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living. आप देखो, स्ट्रगल करो और रोज जूझो, तभी आपका एथिकल ग्रोथ होगा, नहीं तो नहीं होगा. ठीक है, हमेशा कंफ्यूज रहो, थोड़े परेशान रहो कि कैसे हो रहा है. On some issues, see, a issue comes before you, before reading GS paper 4, people have binary opinion, yes or no on that. After GS paper 4, people have maybe kind of opinion. But where would you go? Yes or no, maybe, more towards yes, more towards no. Remember the continuum approach? वो आप करोगे. As far as the exam is concerned here, you have to back it with scholars. Whatever view you are taking. Do you understand that? That will increase the weight of your arguments. And all places are correct. But in real life, what you want to do, absolutely your choice. That is absolutely your choice. Okay. अब देखो, we have already talked about the object, we have talked about the circumstances, and we have talked about the purpose. तो इससे हमारा कौन सा टॉपिक खत्म हो गया? Determinants of ethics in human action. तो दो हो गया हमारा. Essence of ethics in human action. Remember, summum bonum. Ethics is not law. Ethics is not religion. Ethics is not morality. Ethics is not following any convention. And determinants of ethics in human action means object, circumstances, and end. Object can be good, bad, indifferent. Circumstances can be aggravating, extenuating, specifying. Okay? And end is the thing that you have in mind before you perform the action. The third part of this topic is consequences of ethics in human action. जब तक हम इस टॉपिक को अच्छे से नहीं समझेंगे, will not be able to understand consequentialism. समझ में आया? Consequences of ethics in human action means what? What are consequences? What do you understand by consequences? Outcome. Consequences are outcome, or can I say they are nothing but the effects of any action. What are motives? Can I say motives? They inspire you to start the action, whereas consequences are the outcome of the action. Now, when can a person be attributed to the consequences? When can you be held liable for the consequences? अब एक चीज ध्यान से देखना बेहतर. Think of this. If the person has some knowledge about the consequences, vague knowledge भी चलेगा. Vague knowledge means not complete knowledge, but some knowledge. Remember in last class I told you that there are some people who take wild gunshots in some ceremonies. Suppose there is one such person who is taking one such wild gunshot. Now you tell me that if he possesses some knowledge about what kind of dangers the bullet can do, can we hold that person morally culpable if somebody gets injured because of the gunshot? Do you understand that? So the consequences of the action can be attributable to the doer of the action if the doer has some knowledge about the consequences. Not complete knowledge. Complete knowledge तो किसी को नहीं है. Some knowledge उससे चल जाएगा. Second, if suppose the person has not acted himself but made somebody else do the act, it means X has not acted himself but through his inspiration, persuasion or pressure, चाहे जो बोलना है, has made Y to perform the action, and suppose the consequences are bad, can you hold X also culpable for that? Like say for example, think of a politician who has given a hate speech, and because of that hate speech people are now rioting. Can you hold the politician responsible for it? You see that the police will nab the politician and book him under hate crimes. Do you get it? Third, you will also be attributable to the consequences, or the doer will be liable for the consequences when he or she fails to act, when he or she must have acted. Like say for example, remember that accident site example? Suppose there is an accident and suppose there is a person who is lying at the accident site in a pool of blood. Now you just walk past by. You do not do anything. You do not extend any help to the person. If the person dies, can you be held responsible also ethically? Legally तो बात हो ही नहीं रही है. Ethically तो हो जाओगे ना आप भी responsible. So when can the consequences be attached to the performer of the action or the doer of the action? Three cases. One, when the performer has knowledge about the consequences. Second, the performer though might have not done the action directly but indirectly. And third, the performer has not acted when he or she should have acted. In all these three cases, the consequences can be attributable. Do you understand that? अब अगर कोई केस स्टडी लिख रहे हो और जहां पे आपको लिखना है, say for example with respect to red tapeism, can you utilize this third argument? You must have acted, but you have not acted. Single window clearance, आपने देखा होगा ऐसे कई सारे केस स्टडी आते हैं. लोग क्या करते हैं, सिर्फ वो लॉ और सिर्फ लॉ के बारे में लिखते रहते हैं. है एथिक्स का पेपर, लिख के आते हैं पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. कहां से नंबर मिलेगा? Right now, give heading. Consequences of ethics in human actions. Consequences of ethics in human actions. Consequences of ethics in human action. Now under this you write bullet wise. First bullet. Consequences are the outcome of any action. Consequences are the outcome of any action. Put a full stop. An action is judged to be good or bad. An action is judged to be good or bad on the basis of its outcome. On the basis of its outcome. Good or bad on the basis of its outcome. देखो इधर, बोलो मुझे ये हो सकता है क्या? An action can be judged as right or wrong on the basis of consequences. हो सकता है ये right or wrong? Right नहीं होगा, good होगा हमेशा. ध्यान है? Put a full stop, continue. If people suffer, it is wrong. Slash bad, wrong slash bad. If people benefit, it is right slash good. Right slash good. Put a full stop. Continue. Motives are the causes. Motives are the causes, while consequences are the effects. Consequences are the effects. Now, in your school, have you read about this relationship, cause-effect relationship? This is very common in sciences like physics, cause-effect relationship. In ethics, क्या होता है? It is motive-consequences relationship. So you write somewhere in the margin. Motive consequences similar to cause effect. This is in physics. This is in ethics. Cause effect, motive consequences. Now write the second point. The cases where the consequences of an action are attributable to the doer put a comma, involves the following. Attributable to the doer, put a comma, involves the following. Put a hyphen and then write as 1, 2, 3 or A, B, C. A. If the doer knows in advance, in bracket you can write even if vaguely, close the bracket, what the consequences of a particular choice or action will be. What the consequences of a particular choice or action will be. Choice or action will be, put a comma. He or she is presumed to have willed. It means caused. Willed the effect. Put a full stop. For example, if a person kills someone, knowing that it will bring pain to the victim, put a comma, the person can be held liable. Yes. Knowing that it will bring pain to the victim, put a comma, the person can be held liable. For the consequences. B, second one. If the actor does not perform the action, put a comma, but causes another person to do it, put a comma, by encouragement or persuasion, put a comma, then the first person is still morally responsible. Put a full stop. For example, if a politician gives a hate speech, that incites communal riots, put a comma, then the politician can be held morally responsible for it. Full stop. Third, C. Yes. Yes, if there are such laws. No. Let's avoid putting political parties' names, be it any political party. Okay. But see, broad references would be enough. That would be sufficient here. So C, third point, C. If one remains silent or chooses not to act, put a comma, when one should have acted, put a comma, then the person will be responsible for the consequences for the consequences, notwithstanding. It means in spite of. Notwithstanding his inaction. Notwithstanding his inaction. Put a full stop. For example, if a person refrains from helping an accident victim. Now look here. Drop your pen. Close your notebook. ध्यान से देखना, ठीक है? We are trying to discuss a case now. So we are taking the help of a case study to understand morality. तो ध्यान से सुनना पूरे केस को. This is known as the trolley case. It's a famous case which is taught in almost every business school. Harvard Business School, London School of Economics, कहीं भी चले जाओ आप, you will find this. So there are certain scenarios in this trolley case. So let's hold the first scenario. Scenario 1. Now this is how the scenario is. That there is a track and there is a runaway trolley. There's a trolley, runaway trolley. Its brakes have failed and the trolley is rushing down the tracks. The trolley is about to hit a branch on the tracks. So the track bifurcates like that and it's a sloping surface. Do you understand that? Brakes have failed and it's a heavy trolley. Now its original path is this. This is where the trolley is heading towards. Do you get it? And in this branch, there are 5 workers who are working on the track. If the trolley comes hurling down and hits these workers, then all the workers will die on the spot. Do you understand that? And suppose the track has walls on both sides, so there is no way of escaping as well. Do you get it? Just imagine that the workers are trapped here. However, if suppose you are the driver of the trolley, if you reach to this point and you flip a switch. Have you seen trolleys are run through switches? You have to flip the switch. वैसे चलता है. Roller देखा है कभी कैसे? Steering तो होता है लेकिन switches भी होते हैं बहुत सारे उसमें. If you flip the switch, then you will alter the path of the trolley and will take it to the other branch. Here, there is only a single worker who is working, and the trolley will surely hit him and kill him. You are the driver of the trolley. It's a runaway trolley, heavy trolley, brakes have failed. No way of stopping it. These are the assumptions. Okay? Don't add anything to this case. The information that I have supplied, that's it. Do you get it? Now you are about to hit the branch. My question to you people is, will you flip the switch? If you flip the switch, the trolley will go to, let's name these tracks as say track A and track B. If you flip the switch, the trolley will go to track B. And if it goes to track B, then these 5 workers will be saved. If you do not flip the switch, the trolley will keep on moving to its original path and it will come hurling down. It will hit the 5 workers and kill all of them. What will you do? How many of you are willing to switch the flip or flip the switch? How many of you? Raise your hands. Dekho, raise handsomely. Doesn't matter, right? Okay, so there are, अरे अच्छे से तो उठाओ तुम पता तो चले कितने लोग हो. Okay, and others are not willing to do that. Now, why you are willing to flip the switch? Come with your arguments. Raise your hands. I'll give you the opportunity. Yes, go on. Nobody can escape. Let's not add new things to the case. Hmm. Okay, got your argument. Okay, more good for more people. Okay, yes. Anybody else who is supporting this view? Yes. Okay, more lives saved. Okay, more lives saved. That's also a good argument. Anything else? Anything else? Those who are in favor of flipping the switch. Killing one person is justified than killing 5%. More or less the same argument what he has given, saving more lives. Now I want to hear from the other side of the argument. Those who are not willing to flip the switch. How many of them? Raise your hands. Those who are not willing to flip the switch. और देखो जिन्होंने पहले हाथ नहीं उठाया था, मैं ये मान रहा हूं कि they will not flip the switch. Are you going to show indecisiveness? देखो वैसे इंडियन ब्यूरोक्रेसी बर्बाद है और बदनाम है इस नाम से कि ये काम टाइम पे नहीं करते. आप वही कर रहे हो. कुछ तो डिसीजन लेना पड़ेगा ना, या तो फ्लिप करो या तो नहीं करो. तो जिन लोग फ्लिप करेंगे उन्होंने तो बता दिया अपना जो उनका जो पक्ष है. How many of you are not willing to flip? Anybody who is not willing to flip the switch? Okay, all of you will flip? Okay, you are not willing to flip. Why? Hmm.
Maybe those 5% should have that trolley is coming that way only. And it was not the fault of that other 1%. Maybe 1 or 2, it was not his fault that trolley is being so big. It should follow its original path.
Okay, it should follow its original. Good argument. So देखो कुछ सही गलत नहीं होता, बस argument दो और उसको back करने की कोशिश करो. Is anybody else who is of the same thought line? Anybody else? Okay. This is scenario 1. Scenario 1 समझ में आ गया ना सबको? अब चलो एक और ले लेते हैं. Scenario 2. This time the track is like this. It means there is no branching in the track. Can you understand that? And there is a trolley again heading down the track, and it's a heavy trolley, brakes are failed, everything similar to the first case. Only thing difference here is there is no branching. Do you get it? And again, here at the end of the track, suppose there are 5 workers who are working. This time you are not the driver. This time you are an onlooker. Suppose you are standing at the barricade and you are watching this entire thing. The trolley is hurling down. Heavy trolley, जैसे ट्रेन का इंजन होता है ना, समझ लो वैसा आ रहा है. And these people, they cannot see that. Suppose there is no chance that they would see it. Do you get it? Because of the nature of the slope or something like that. Do you get it? But you can see both the scenarios. You can see both the things. That the trolley is hurling down and the people are working down the track. And you are who? You are an onlooker. You are standing at the barricade. Next to you is, let's hold it like this, a very healthy man who is standing. Do you understand that? A very bulky man who is standing. And he is also leaning across the barricade and trying to see what is happening. If you just push him on the track, then he will fall on the track, the trolley will hit him, and the trolley will stop. And 5 lives will be saved. How many of you who said in the first case that you will flip the switch are now willing to push this man on the track? What happened to your morality? Are you understanding? You were so comfortable in flipping the switch. Why? What was the principle? Greater the number of lives saved. वही principle तो यहाँ पे भी apply हो रहा है. Greater the number of 5 lives saved. See, 5 deaths means sadness in 5 families, grief in 5 families. So here if you push the man will die. surely the man will die, but 5 lives will be saved. Are you going to do that? Those who said that they are going to flip the switch, I want to hear from them. Are you willing to do this now? Are you willing to push the man? अरे कुछ तो बोलो, हाँ ना तो बोलो. How many of you are comfortable in pushing the man? Raise your hands. Anybody who is comfortable in pushing the man. It means Monday को एक ethics होता है, Wednesday को अलग ethics हो जाता है आपका. Is there no consistency in with your morality? देखो इतने चार्ज लगा रहा हूं मैं आप पे, कुछ तो बोलो. You tell me one thing. Are you? Why this looks wrong to you? Just tell me this. Is this not the same principle? Here also it is 5 versus 1. Here also it is 5 versus 1. So why this is wrong and that is right? पहला वाला क्यों ह्यूमन एक्शन नहीं है? आपको नॉलेज है तो आप कुछ नहीं करोगे. अच्छा कुछ नहीं करना अभी तो पड़ा ना, कुछ नहीं करोगे तब भी कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस आप पे आएंगे. When you would have acted and you decided not to act. हाँ 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 तो वहां पे भी तो फ्रीडम है, करना या ना करना. ये फ्रीडम है कि नहीं है? अच्छा एक बात बताओ, अगर तुमने स्विच को फ्लिप कर दिया तो फिर क्या ये लोग मरेंगे? ना करने पे ही मरेंगे ना. नॉट टेकिंग एनी एक्शन इज ऑल्सो एन एक्शन. यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? पता है ना ये? नॉट टेकिंग एन एक्शन इज ऑल्सो एन एक्शन. हैव यू सीन पीपल हु से दैट आई हेट पॉलिटिक्स, आई डोंट want to participate in politics? Not participating in politics is also a type of politics. समझ में आ रहा है? So not taking an action is also an action, dear. So here are two actions of flipping, action of not flipping. What are you opting? Action of flipping. So here you are saying I will not push. Why? Okay, you are saying that flipping the switch is somehow less wrong, pushing the man with hand somehow is more wrong. You're saying that physically involved. अच्छा चलो ऐसा कर देते हैं. Here also there is a switch. If you a lever, if you just pull that lever, the man will automatically fall on the track. Okay. Yes. Who exactly is that man? Okay. 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 Good argument. Good argument. अच्छा चीज एक चीज सोच कर देखो. Yes. Go on, please. नहीं यहाँ पे भी श्योरिटी है, ये हमने मान लिया. द मैन व्हेन द ट्रॉली विल हिट द मैन, द ट्रॉली विल स्टॉप. श्योरिटी है, हम ये मान रहे हैं, अजम्पशन है ये. ऐसा मत सोचो कि ट्रॉली हिट करने के बाद भी फिर चलती रहेगी, फिर तो पता नहीं आप अपना मुंह लेकर कहाँ जाओगे. समझ में आ रहा है? ऐसे सोच कर देखो, ऐसे सोच कर देखो. सपोज यू आर अ सर्जन. सर्जन समझते हो ना? आपने मेडिकल साइंस पढ़ी, आप एक डॉक्टर बने, अब आप सर्जन हो, एंड यू आर डेडिकेटेड टू हेल्प द पीपल, एवरीबडी इन द सोसाइटी. ठीक है? एंड यू हैव ओपनड अ क्लिनिक, और उस क्लिनिक में आप सुबह से पहुंच जाते हो 6 बजे से, और रात को 12 बजे तक बैठे रहते हो, और उसके बाद भी आप ये इंश्योर करते हो कि अगर किसी को जरूरत पड़ी तो मैं आ जाऊंगा. मतलब ये आपका लेवल ऑफ डेडिकेशन है फॉर योर क्लिनिक. From the poor, you do not take any money. So you are an ethical surgeon. कुल मिलाकर ये कहना, ठीक, is committed towards his duty or her duty. What happens is that in your hospital there are 5 patients and all of them require an organ. Suppose let's call them A, B, C, D, E. A requires a heart surgery, B requires a brain surgery, C requires say a lung surgery, D a liver surgery, and E suppose requires a pancreas, something like that. If you understand that, and here I am assuming that you are super surgeon, आपको सारी सर्जरी करनी आती है, ठीक है. You want all these organs in 2 hours time. If you cannot arrange for these organs, a heart, a kidney, liver, जो भी चाहिए आपको, all the 5 people will die. Despite your best efforts, you have contacted many organ donation camps and all those kind of things, but have not got the organs. Are you understanding the case? And how much time do you have in your hands? 2 hours. So let us give it some timing. Suppose it is 1 PM and अगर आप 3 PM तक कुछ ना करो, all the 5 people will die. Now what is the ethical principle that a doctor should follow or a surgeon should follow? Save lives or destroy lives? Save lives. Do you understand that? तो आपके पास कोई तरीका नहीं है, कुछ भी तरीका नहीं है कि आप कहाँ से ये ऑर्गन्स लाओगे, क्या करोगे, कोई आइडिया नहीं है. यू आर सिटिंग इन योर रूम विथ योर हैंड ऑन योर हेड एंड यू आर कंप्लीटली डिस्ट्रॉयड, क्योंकि आपको लग रहा है कि मैंने खोला ही क्यों, ये सब कुछ कर ही क्यों रहा हूँ. व्हेन आई एम नॉट एबल टू help the people, all of them are dying, all of them are my patients, and they all are praying to the doctor, please save us at whatever cost you say, we are willing to pay, but please save us. But there are no organs, cost is not a problem here. Do you get that? Now as he is sitting in his room at 1:20 PM, a man, say X, enters his clinic and says, doctor, for the last few days I am not able to sleep because the moment I sleep my nose is jammed, I can't breathe. So on preliminary examination you identify that he is suffering from cold and cough, and you say, okay, you take a seat in the adjacent room, I'll come and see you. So he leaves by 1:30 and is sitting in the adjacent room. So this is your room and he is sitting in the adjacent room. Suddenly, as you're thinking, it strikes you that while I examined this person X, all his organs are proper. If I can extract all the organs from his body, I can save 5 lives. As the surgeon, will you do it? उसको सर्दी हुई है, याद रखना, ठीक है. वो बड़ी उम्मीदें लेकर आया है आपके पास, सर्जन के पास आया है. सर्दी में कौन जाता है सर्जन के पास? सोचो, आया आपके पास, सर्दी खांसी बुखार यही चल रहा है उसका, ऑर्गन उसके सारे बिल्कुल तगड़े हैं. क्या करोगे आप? सर्जरी आपको आती है, याद है ना? तो क्या करोगे आप? विल यू गो देयर, पुट एनेस्थेसिया, टेक आउट ऑल द ऑर्गन्स, सेव 5 lives? Will you do that? How many of you will do that? What happened to the principle of 5 versus 1? What happened to this principle? समझ में आ रहा है? समझ में आ रहा है? कुछ एक्शन ऐसे होते हैं जिसके 2 कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस होते हैं, एक अच्छा एक बुरा भी. जैसे अगर आप फ्लिप करोगे स्विच, तो उससे इनका तो अच्छा होगा बट इसका बुरा होगा. वैसे इफ यू पुश द हेल्दी मैन ऑन द ट्रैक, उससे इनका तो अच्छा हो जाएगा बट उस आदमी का बुरा होगा. वैसे इफ यू डू टेक आउट द ऑर्गन्स फ्रॉम द पर्सन हु हैज जस्ट वॉक्ड इन फॉर चेकअप फॉर कोल्ड एंड कफ, तो इन लोगों का तो अच्छा हो जाएगा सबका, बट उसका बुरा होगा. तो ऐसे समय हमें क्या करना चाहिए? टू आवर रेस्क्यू comes again Saint Thomas Aquinas. In his book, name the book, Summa Theologica, he gives a doctrine. This doctrine is known as the doctrine of double effect. समझ में आया? और जब हम essence, determinants and consequences of ethics की बात करते हैं तो हमको ये इस doctrine से close करना चाहिए अपने टॉपिक को. ठीक है? So give a heading. Doctrine of double effect. Doctrine of double effect. तो इस डॉक्ट्रिन को समझने के लिए कॉन्टेक्स्ट भी चाहिए हमको, और ट्रॉली केस हमारा कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, ठीक है? तो उस डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ डबल इफेक्ट के नीचे एक सब हेडिंग डालो, ट्रॉली केस। ट्रॉली केस, और उसमें हम दो सिनेरियोज लिखेंगे, सिनेरियो 1 एंड सिनेरियो 2। सो सिनेरियो 1, write as scenario 1, put a hyphen and write against it. You are the operator. You are the operator of an out of control trolley. You are the operator of an out of control trolley rushing down the track. Rushing down the track. Put a full stop. You are about to hit a branch. You are about to hit a branch in the track. In the track. Next, you write currently the trolley is going towards. Currently, the trolley is going towards 5 men. 5 men working on one branch of the track. Working on one branch of the track. Put a full stop. If you flip a switch, if you flip a switch, the trolley will change directions. The trolley will change directions and go rushing towards one man working on the other branch of the track. Working on the other branch of the track. अब नीचे क्वेश्चन लिखो, change the ink if you want. What would you do? What would you do? Question mark. Now then you write scenario 2. Scenario 2. There is a runaway trolley. There is a runaway trolley heading for 5 men. Heading for 5 men working on a track. 5 men working on a track. Put a comma. But this time there is no split in the track. But this time there is no split in the track. Next, you are an onlooker. You are an onlooker standing at the barricade. You are an onlooker standing at the barricade of the track. Barricade of the track. And there is a man standing next to you. And there is a man standing next to you. Next, you are sure that if you push the man, standing next to you on the track, put a comma, the trolley will hit him, and it will stop. Put a full stop. However, the man will die. Full stop. Again, change the ink and write the question. What would you do? Question mark. What would you do? Now, under that, you write, make a star and write Saint Thomas Aquinas. Saint Thomas Aquinas, in his work Summa Theologica, Saint Thomas Aquinas, NAS, Aquinas, in his work Summa Theologica, proposes the doctrine of double effect. Proposes the doctrine of double effect. Put a hyphen and write, according to this doctrine, one may perform an action which produces both good and bad effect. If the following conditions are met. Now drop your pen. This is the conceptual part. See, according to the doctrine of double effect or Saint Thomas Aquinas, these 4 conditions should be met. And if these 4 conditions are met, notwithstanding the action producing good and bad consequences, you can go ahead with the action. Now, what are these 4 conditions? First, the object of the action it cannot be bad. It can be good, it can be indifferent, but it cannot be bad. Remember, object, the very action itself cannot be bad. Second, the intent of the performer of the action should be to create the good and not the bad. Do you get it? मतलब जो कर रहा है एक्शन परफॉर्म, वो क्या सोच के कर रहा है? I want to do good, not to hurt someone or kill someone. Do you get that? Or injure someone. Third, now this is an important principle. The good does not flows from the bad. It means the good is not coming out of the bad. In fact, good and bad both are coming out of the action independently. Do you get that? Good is not coming out of the bad, or the good consequence is not a result of the bad consequence. Do you get it? मतलब ऐसा नहीं हुआ है, एक्शन से पहले बैड हुआ है और बैड होने की वजह से गुड हुआ है. एक्शन से ही गुड और बैड दोनों निकलना चाहिए, तभी तो दोनों कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस हुए ना. एंड फाइनली द गुड should be much more in proportion than the bad. If these 4 conditions are met, you can perform the action. Let's apply this to our trolley problems. Got it? Remember, this was scenario 1. Chalo pehle dekho. When you are the driver, what are you doing? What is the action? Flipping the switch. Flipping the switch is good or bad? Indifferent. तो पहला condition meet हो गया. The first condition is met. Second, why are you flipping the switch? Do you want to kill the person or you want to save the 5 person? What is the intention? Saving, not killing. Do you understand that? So the intention is good. So second condition is met. Abhi third wala dhyan se dekho. If you run the track or if you flip the switch and the trolley comes on this branch, and suppose due to its own malfunction, or suppose ऐसे सोच कर देखो, this man somehow notices the trolley. Got it? And I told you there are barricades, but suppose this man somehow he jumps over on the barricade. Now how can he do that? Maybe this question is coming to your mind. देखो, एक कहावत सुना है आपने, मरता क्या नहीं करता. पता है आपको, जब जान पे बन आती है तो पता नहीं आप भी स्पाइडरमैन बन जाओगे वहां पे. समझ में आया? So suppose he moves away. Let's assume that he moves away. Still the 5 people will be saved. Do you understand that? It means his death is not necessary for the saving of 5 lives. Got it? Only the trolley should change track. Do you get that? So the third condition is also met. It means the good is not flowing from the bad. And obviously 5 lives to 1 life. It means good is much, much more than the bad. So all the 4 conditions are met. Hence flipping the switch is ethical. Do you get it? अब देखो scenario 2 पे लगाते हैं इसको. First, object. Object is what? What are you doing? Pushing. Pushing is good or bad or indifferent? Indifferent. Again. Intent. Intent is what? Let's give the benefit of doubt to you. Intent is to save the 5 people. Though there could be some, हो सकता है इससे पैसे उधार लिए हो इसने और सोचा होगा अच्छा मौका है, एक तीर से 2 निशाने. Do you understand that? But हम मान के चलते हैं चलो कि benefit of doubt देते हैं कि intent is to save the 5 people, not to kill this healthy man. Got it? तो second वाला भी वो हो गया. Third वाला आप देखो ये नहीं satisfy हो रहा. If he looks at the trolley and he jumps across on this way, the trolley will keep on going. Do you understand that? Trolley कब रुकेगा? When it will collide with him. And on collision, there will be death or injury or both. Do you understand that? It means his death is necessary for the saving of these 5 lives. Do you understand that? So when there will be death, is that good or bad? Bad. And because of the death, there will be good. So good is flowing from the bad. But here, even if he jumps and he does not die, still there will be good. So the good is not flowing from the bad. Do you understand that? And fourth, obviously, fourth one is satisfied, right? More lives saved. But the third principle is not satisfied. Here, the death of the person is necessary to stop the trolley. Do you get that? That's why flipping the switch, moral, pushing the man, immoral. अब एक बात बताओ, आपको डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ डबल इफेक्ट पता नहीं था, फिर भी आपने वही डिसीजन लिया. समझ में आ रहा है? तो एक चीज सुनकर रखो आज, एथिक्स ग्रामर की तरह. जिसने पढ़ ली वो ज्यादा गलती करता है अब इंग्लिश में. समझ में आया? जिसको ग्रामर नहीं आती ना वो ज्यादा अच्छी इंग्लिश बोलता है. समझ में आ रहा है? एथिक्स भी वैसा ही है. जब ज्यादा एथिक्स पढ़ लोगे ना तब मुश्किल होगा डिसीजन लेने में, क्योंकि अब आपको सब कुछ पता है. हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट दिस इग्नोरेंस इज ब्लिस? तो आपको नहीं पता था तब भी आपने वही डिसीजन ले लिया. देखो मोर और लेस. अभी डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ डबल इफेक्ट हम कहाँ लगा सकते हैं? किसी को लगेगा कि ये एक हमारे एग्जाम को लेकर कैसे रेलेवेंट है. एक बात बताओ, all of you know about the country-wide lockdown? अब एक बात बताओ, लॉकडाउन में 2 चीजें हैं. One is lives were saved. So many lives were saved. If there was no lockdown, think about the disaster. वैक्सीन भी नहीं था, क्या होता? याद है ना वो दिन? बट लॉकडाउन की वजह से डू यू रिमेंबर अ लॉट ऑफ माइग्रेंट वर्कर्स दे हैड टू सफर. लगा सकते हो डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ डबल इफेक्ट यहां पे. लॉकडाउन से दोनों कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस निकल रहे हैं, अच्छा भी और बुरा भी, और आप डिफेंड कर सकते हो लॉकडाउन को. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? डू यू अंडरस्टैंड कि अगर माइग्रेशन नहीं होता माइग्रेंट लेबर्स का तब भी बेनिफिट तो हो जाता. उनके हार्डशिप जरूरी नहीं थे इनके हेल्थ के लिए. दैट्स अ सैड स्टोरी कि वो हुआ. डू यू गेट इट? बट यस, यू सी दैट एवरी कंट्री लर्न्स लेसन्स and see how we handled the third wave. और अब किसी को फर्क भी पड़ता है. But look, several countries are still suffering from COVID-19. But we have come out of it successfully. Yes, but only after paying a heavy price for it. But can you apply the doctrine of double effect now? समझ में आ रहा है? So write down. A, B, C, D करके लिखना. Put a hyphen and write A, B, C, D, A. The act itself is not inherently bad. The act itself is not inherently bad. Inherently bad. In bracket you write, that is the object is not bad. That is the object is not bad. Close the bracket, put a full stop. B. The intent of the agent is to produce the good effect. The intent of the agent is to produce the good effect. and not the bad effect. And not the bad effect. C. The bad effect does not cause the good effect. The bad effect does not cause the good effect. That is, the good consequence does not flow from the bad. The good consequence does not flow from the bad. Put a bracket and write within that, both the good and the bad, both the good and the bad are caused by the action. Are caused by the action. Close the bracket. And the last one, D. The good effect must be, proportionately much more significant, than the bad. Got it? Now, you give a small subheading, application to the trolley problem. Application to the trolley problem. और इसमें 2 बुलेट लिखना है बस. First bullet you write, in scenario 1, put a comma, if we flip the switch, it saves 5 men. It saves 5 men. Not because one man is killed. Not because one man is killed. Put a full stop and write, even if the man jumps off the track, at the last moment, still 5 lives will be saved. Still 5 lives will be saved. Put a full stop. Hence, flipping the switch is moral. Hence, flipping the switch is moral. Next bullet. In scenario 2, put a comma. However, the man, put a comma again, who is being pushed over the track, put a comma again, must collide with the trolley. Put a full stop. The good, in bracket you write saving of 5 lives. The good, in bracket you write saving of 5 lives. Close the bracket. In this case, put a comma, is caused by the bad. In bracket you write death of the person being pushed. Close the bracket. Put a comma. Hence, it is an immoral act. Got it? अच्छा चलो एक और सिनेरियो देखते हैं. Yes, go on. नहीं, हम अज्यूम नहीं कर रहे हैं. हम कह रहे हैं कि वो जंप करे चाहे ना करे. हम अज्यूम नहीं कर रहे हैं कि वो जंप करेगा ही करेगा. हम कह रहे हैं वो करे चाहे ना करे. अगर कर जाए तब भी सेव हो रहा है. उसकी डेथ जरूरी नहीं है. हम ये मान रहे हैं. हम ये अजम्पशन नहीं कर रहे हैं. ओके, लुक हियर. This is how the track is this time. Let's consider this as scenario 3. This is how the track is. Got it? And here are the 5 people who are working. 5 workers who are working. This is the trolley which is heading towards. And here there is a person who is working. Let's call it the loop trolley problem. अब क्या हो रहा है? The moment you come to the branch, if you flip the switch, the trolley will go here. If the trolley hits the person, the trolley will stop. Do you understand that? And 5 lives will be saved. If you do not flip the switch, the trolley will head towards its original path and 5 people will be killed. Are you understanding the scenario? Now imagine that if you come here, and we just considered flipping the switch is moral. So if you flip the switch, as you flip the switch, the trolley moves in this direction. Suppose this man moves away from the track. What happens to the trolley then? The trolley will again come back to the original path. Now will you flip the switch? Now will you flip the switch? You won't flip the switch. Do you understand that? If you don't flip the switch, what will happen? 5 lives will be taken away. Do you get it? समझ में आ रहा है? 5 lives will be taken away. But that would be moral. Why? Because you are not violating the doctrine of double effect, at least the third principle. You are not violating it. That the good should flow from the bad. But what will we gain by losing so many people? This will not be accepted by at least the consequentialists or the utilitarians. आपने उनका नारा सुना है? Maximum good for the maximum number. सुना है कभी? Or the greatest good for the greatest number. They will dismiss it. Got it? So क्या समझ में आया? ये समझ में आया कि यही सब कुछ नहीं है, कुछ और भी हो सकता है इसके आगे. आप ट्रैक को कैसे भी बना दो और आप पूरे सिचुएशन को ऑल्टर कर दोगे. Do you get it? So this is scenario 3 where we leave it like a question to the evaluator, and don't think that the evaluator has an answer. Nobody has. Do you get it? He has to take one side. Either you have to become a utilitarian, or you have to become a deontologist, or you have to become a virtue ethicist, or you have to become a theologian. You'll fall back to something, on some law, on some constitution, on some religious scripture. कहीं तो जाना पड़ेगा आपको. Otherwise, you will face what? This is ethical dilemma. Do you understand that? सब कुछ हर जगह हो सकता है. आप सोच कर देखो, जैसे हमारे यहाँ एक एक्ट है, RTI Act. It says what? You have to give information about the work of the government. But there is also an act called the Official Secrets Act, जहाँ पे आपको sensitive information नहीं देनी है पब्लिक में. अब कौन डिसाइड करेगा विच इंफॉर्मेशन इज सेंसिटिव और नॉट? समझ लो किसी ने बोल दिया कि रेलवे का इंफॉर्मेशन सेंसिटिव है या डिफेंस का इंफॉर्मेशन सेंसिटिव है. अब सोच के देखो, अगर डिफेंस का कोई सेक्टर प्राइवेटाइज हो जाए और रेलवे का कोई सेक्टर प्राइवेटाइज हो जाए और प्राइवेट कंपनी ये बोलने लगे कि सेंसिटिव इंफॉर्मेशन है इसलिए हम नहीं देंगे, जस्ट बाय दैट नेम दे विल किल कंपटीशन एंड दे विल मोनोपोलाइज द सेक्टर. So from government monopoly, it would be private monopoly. So what to do in such scenarios? See, in every class, I will not give you all the answers. But in every class, I'll give you new questions to think about. Got it? And that's how you will learn this subject. Let's go. Scenario 3. Scenario 3. और उसमें कुछ मत करो आप ना, बस ये एक ऐसा डायग्राम बना लो जिससे आपको समझ में आ जाए. लूप ट्रॉली प्रॉब्लम ऐसे लिख लो. Runaway trolley. going in this path.
So will be for all three groups for one negative.
Will we?
So for all three positive reason for that one third reason.
Yes, because all the situations should hold true, dear. Here. Yes, Aquinas says all the four should hold true. Then only you can take the action. But in real practical life, mostly people will go for that. Got it? जैसे ऐसे होता है ना, suppose in the preliminary examination you have 4 options. वैसे इस बार तो मामला बिल्कुल ही अलग था, but वैसे सोच कर देखो, with the elimination technique has been eliminated. So with the elimination technique, suppose you eliminate A and B, and you're left with C and D. तो मतलब 50% चांस तो है ना आपके पास अभी, तो you take a risk. लेते हो ना आप रिस्क? बट एक्विनास वो ये नहीं कह रहे, वो कह रहे चारों कंडीशंस सेटल होनी चाहिए, ए बी सी डी, तब भी लेना एक्शन, नहीं तो फिर नहीं जमेगा. सो राइट डाउन इसके नीचे, इफ वी अप्लाई द डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ डबल इफेक्ट, if we apply the doctrine of double effect in the loop trolley case, put a comma, one should let the trolley kill the 5 people. One should let the trolley kill the 5 people. Put a hyphen and write, but is this desirable? After that you write, at least, question mark डालना, is this desirable, question mark, at least not for the consequentialists, like utilitarians, who believe in, now write in inverted commas, maximum good for maximum number. मैक्सिमम गुड फॉर मैक्सिमम नंबर. ठीक है, तो हमारा ये टॉपिक हो गया, एसेंस, कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस एंड डिटर्मिनेंट्स ऑफ एथिक्स इन ह्यूमन एक्शन. समझ में आ गया ये पूरा अच्छे से? चलो कुछ क्वेश्चंस लिख लो प्रैक्टिस के लिए अपने. पहला क्वेश्चन लिखो कोटेशन के फॉर्म में, और वही वाला कोट लिखना है, इन लॉ अ मैन इज गिल्टी व्हेन ही वायोलेट्स, इन लॉ अ मैन इज गिल्टी व्हेन ही वायोलेट्स the rights of others, when he violates the rights of others. Put a comma. In ethics he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. Unquote. Put a hyphen and write analyze. Put a full stop. Second question, what are the prime determinants of ethics? In human actions? Question mark. क्या है determinants of ethics in human action? What are the prime determinants of ethics in human action? Essence, determinant पढ़ा था ना, क्या है? Object, circumstances and purpose. समझ में आ गया? थर्ड क्वेश्चन लिखो, discuss the doctrine of double effect. And highlight how it helps in the resolution of ethical dilemmas. In yesterday's class we lost half an hour, covered that today. ठीक है, तो हो गया, अब हम बिल्कुल एकदम ट्रैक पे आ गए हैं. Is there any doubt? Things that we have learned? Okay, so that is it. Thank you very much.